Wherever, whenever there is a story, that is where you find us. Where the gist is developing, that is where we cast our net. Where there is a drama, you can trust us to act it out. And where there is news, reporting is our delight. Even on the go, we are ready to track it. At Immaculate Television, we bring you the latest, hottest, and spot-on news as it makes the rounds all over the world. Reporting from the nooks and crannies of both rural and urban communities. Talk of politics, business, sports, entertainment, events, and many more. You can trust us with your airtime and view time because we are binoculate. We are Immaculate Television. ITVS. News around the world, into Africa and across the nation Nigeria. You're welcome to ITVS World News. My name is Anolo Idowu, and I will start with a story from Nigeria, where Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has pushed back against the blanket stereotyping of Nigerians as cyber criminals, saying that such generalizations misrepresent the West African country. He said such a move would tarnish the image and reputation of the majority of citizens who are law-abiding. Currently on a private tour in France, said in a speech read by the Deputy President Kashim Shettima, sharing that Nigerians have been victims of mislabeling over the years. Tinubu added that the Association of Internet Crimes and the entire Nigerian populace lack statistical evidence and does not reflect everyday Nigerians, whom he described as hardworking, honest citizens who contribute significantly to various fields globally, from artificial intelligence to medicine. In 2020, the FBI and the United States Internal Security and Intelligence Agency ranked Nigeria 16th among countries most impacted by cybercrime. Cybercrime costs the country about $500 million every year, according to the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. Switching focus away from Nigeria now to Ghana, where Ghana's former president and leader opposition party figure John Dramani Mahama has opposed LGBTQ practices, saying they contradict his Christian faith. In recent times, LGBTQ are a heated issue in Ghana, and meanwhile, the president and the parliament of the West African countries is currently considering a controversial anti-LGBTQ bill which will impose tough penalties on members of the LGBTQ community if passed. The bill forbids Ghanaians from identifying as LGBTQ and increases the sentences for same-sex activities from a maximum of 3 years to a maximum of 5 years. The bill also bans the supporting of LGBTQ rights in the country. Gay sex is already against the law and carries a 3-year prison sentence. Mr. Mahama served as Ghana's president between 2012 and 2017 but lost in his bid for a second term to President Nana Akufo-Addo in 2016 elections. The 65-year-old is again seeking re-election in December presidential elections under the main opposition party, National.
Make one thing very clear. No one can deny Prime Minister Cameron his right to make policies, take initiatives, or make statements that reflect his societal norms and ideals. But he does not have the right to direct other sovereign nations as to what they should do, especially where their societal norms and ideals are different from those which exist in Prime Minister Karam's society. I, as president of this nation, will never initiate or support any attempts to legalize
Away from the LGBTQ situation in Ghana, now to South Africa, where there's an allegation. The South Africa's Foreign Minister, Naledi Pandor, has denied allegations the ruling ANC party received financial backing from Iran to file its case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, ICJ. During a press briefing on Wednesday, the minister termed the allegations as counter-offensive by Israel and its allies, echoing earlier comments by President Cyril Ramaphosa that his country could face retaliation for pursuing legal action against Israel. And last week, ICJ delivered a ruling in the case saying that Israel must take all measures to prevent genocide acts in Gaza. The minister also said that she had complained to the ICJ over its slow pace of action on South Africa's referral against Israel, including the delay of issuing an arrest warrant for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ms. Pandor also said that all countries had an obligation to cease funding and facilitating Israel's military actions in Gaza, as maintaining financial support could be aiding or assisting in the commission of genocide. The minister suggested that South Africa mobilize countries in the Global South to provide humanitarian aid to Palestinians amid aid cuts in recent days. And nearly a dozen Western countries discontinued funding to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, in Gaza over allegations that some of its staff were involved in last October's attack on Israel by Hamas. Away from there now to the Southern African Development, where health ministers from the SADC Southern African Development Community have rejected a proposal to declare cholera a public health emergency in the region. Sylvia Masebo, the African Center for Disease Control (CDC) board chairperson, on Wednesday said individual countries should independently decide whether to declare the cholera outbreak as a health emergency or not. Speaking during the CDC extraordinary session in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Ms. Masebo, who is also Zambia's health minister, urged member states to develop proactive interventions to curb the spread of the current outbreak. She said the outbreak had affected about 15 SADC member states, and Zambia is among countries battling the worst outbreak in decades, with nearly 600 deaths and more than 16,000 cases reported since last October. The country has experienced cholera outbreaks at least 30 times since 1977, with the charity WaterAid saying the latest one is the worst since 2027. Zimbabwe and Malawi have also been affected by the current cholera outbreak, and SADC leaders are set to hold a virtual summit on Friday to assess the state of preparedness and responses to the cholera outbreak in the region. And here is a report courtesy of ZMBC.
The SADC Ministers of Health didn't, however, agree with one submission by the Africa CDC to declare a public health emergency in the SADC region. This means that countries will need to look at their cholera status and
Away from that as well now to Burkina Faso, where Burkina Faso's military-backed president has said Russian troops could deploy to fight jihadists in the West African country if needed. In an interview, Ibrahim Traoré said Russia is offering logistic and tactical training and they're willing to sell whatever weapons are required to Burkina Faso. Mr. Traoré added that there are no restrictions on what can be brought from Russia, China, Turkey or Iran, unlike other countries. This comes amid report that at least 100 Russian fighters were sent to the African country's military instructors last week, and development also fuels speculation of Burkina Faso deepening security ties with Russia, like neighboring Mali, where Russian Wagner mercenaries operate. The junta-led country's relations with Moscow have been in the spotlight since it booted out French troops in early 2023, and Burkina Faso has been battling Islamist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, which have taken over large swathes of land and displaced millions of people in the Sahel region. And in Zambia, Zambia's former president, Edgar Lungu, has asked citizens to call for an early election, accusing his successor, Hakainde Hichilema, popularly known as HH, of failing to run the economy. Mr. Lungu also accused President Hichilema of failing to manage a cholera outbreak which has claimed the lives of nearly 600 people since last October. And speaking at an opposition media briefing on Wednesday, Mr. Lungu said Zambians should put pressure on the president to accept that an early election was imperative. And there was a swift response from the government spokesperson, Cornelius Witwa, dismissed Mr. Lungu's allegation and urged Zambians to give the president enough time to deliver his campaign promises. Mr. Witwa accused the former leader of running and ruining the country's economy during his 6 years in office. Mr. Lungu announced a comeback to politics last October, prompting the government to withdraw its retirement benefit. He had retired from politics in 2021 after suffering a crushing defeat in a presidential election, and his return to politics sets a stage for a bruising 2026 presidential race. Away from the shores of Africa now to Hungary, where European leaders are meeting on Thursday in Brussels in the hope of ending a standoff over financial aid for Ukraine. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán vetoed a $55 billion aid package for Kyiv last December, and Polish PM Donald Tusk said he could not accept Mr. Orbán's strange and very egoistic game, adding Ukraine stood to lose if Hungary influenced the European Union policy. The summit takes place against the backdrop of major farmers' protests. On Thursday morning, over 1,000 tractors blocked the street around the European quarter in Brussels, and farmers protesting high taxes, rising costs and cheap import threw eggs at the European Parliament as EU leaders hunkered down in the Council building nearby for talks that are expected to last into the night. Mr. Orbán said he wants to force everything on EU policy towards Ukraine. Meanwhile, many have pinned his decision on the EU's withholding of 20 billion euros of fund for Hungary because of concerns about human rights and corruption in the country. At least the last EU summit in December, Mr. Orbán begrudgingly allowed Ukraine to receive EU candidate country status. Rumors have swirled recently over potential punitive action by the EU, and EU leaders, however, are unlikely to agree to this proposal, which will leave them exposed to an annual veto threat from Hungary. And here is a report courtesy of TRT World.
EU leaders
to the United States, where the White House has blamed an Iran-backed militia umbrella group for a deadly attack on a U.S. base in Jordan as it considers how to hit back. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said the United States intelligence believed the Islamic resistance in Iraq was behind Sunday's drone strike. Additionally, President Joe Biden has said, without elaborating, that he has already decided what the United States response would be. The strike, according to reports, killed 3 United States soldiers and injured at least 40 other U.S. troops. The Islamic resistance in Iraq, which is believed to contain the multiple militias that have been armed, funded, and trained by Iran's Revolutionary Guards Force, has already claimed responsibility for the strike. However, Mr. Biden has said it does not want a wider conflict in the Middle East, which has already been destabilized by the Israel to Gaza war that erupted in October. In another development, Iran has denied any role in the drone attack, and at an event on Wednesday, Revolutionary Guards Commander Major General Hossein Salami, who advised the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said that Tehran hears the threat coming from American officials, while Washington waits its response. Kataib Hezbollah, part of Islamic resistance in Iraq, said on Tuesday it has suspended operations against United States forces to avoid causing embarrassment to the Iraqi government. Meanwhile, the Iran-aligned Houthis in Yemen have continued to carry out missile and drone attacks on merchant ships in the Red Sea in response to the war in Gaza. And here is a report courtesy of USA Today.
We believe that the attack in Jordan was planned, resourced, and facilitated by an umbrella group called the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, which contains multiple groups, including Kataib Hezbollah. We have obligations in the region, including those to our troops and our facilities. And now, as Karine reminded everybody, those attacks have taken the lives of 3 of them. We will do what we need to do to make sure that those responsible are held properly accountable.
Across the nation, Nigeria, you're still on to the world news on Immaculate Television. A brief now into the world of entertainment and sports. An anti-war Russian Belarusian rock band says all its members have left Thailand for Israel after fears they would be deported by Russia. By2 had been playing in Thai resort Popular with Russian tourists when members were arrested for unauthorized shows. Human rights activists urged Thailand not to deport them for fear they would be persecuted in their home countries, and now the band says it's on its way to Tel Aviv in Israel. The band was being held in the capital Bangkok after being arrested while touring Phuket, a resort island that hosts hundreds of thousands of Russian visitors each year. And in an earlier statement, the band said that the outside pressure had played a significant role in its detention by the Thai authorities. The band has been touring outside Russia since 2022, including playing shows across Europe last year. Meanwhile, the band has been singled out by Russian lawmakers before its alleged anti-Russian stance. And in sports, Lewis Hamilton is poised for a shock move to Ferrari for the 2025 season, according to BBC Sports. Several sources say claims of links between the 7-time champion and Ferrari should be taken seriously, but the deal is not yet confirmed. Ferrari wants Hamilton to join Charles Leclerc for the 2025 season, and the 39-year-old signed a new tour deal with Mercedes for 2024 and 2025 last summer, but it seems he can leave after one season should he choose. The possibility